Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Watercooler. And today I am with my good friend, Trevor Potts. And we're just going to shoot the shit today. A little low key. It is Juneteenth. So no tech talk per se. I think we're just going to.
This dramatically limits the total possibility of things I can talk about.
I know. Oh, but today's a thinking, remembrance, educating oneself day, right? My company that I work for, Microsoft, we're given today as a day to reflect and educate ourselves and do the best that we can as a person to remember Juneteenth type day. So yeah, and I figured today, there's a lot going on, and we can just chit chat. I know that you've expressed a lot of emotions on the Twitters lately with some of your tweets, especially about what's been happening here in the U.S.
That's a very polite way of putting it.
Lots of emotions, right? You've had some emotional tweets of how you feel of what's happening in this great country of ours, and I do say that with a lot of heartfelt meaning. It is a great country. It's just, we have some problems. We do that we need to fix, and it's just not us, right? I mean, it's a whole world thing. We need to get over
it definitely isn't that. I think the thing that gives me pause when you say things like this great country, etc., is that that's really hearkening back to the concept of American exceptionalism, that there is something somehow fundamentally different about the USA, and thus, as a result, it's basically exempt from all the rules. And I think that this entire social movement is effectively saying, no, that's not true. America isn't exceptional, and it is subject to the same rules, and it does have to treat people properly, and it has to think about its own history in the context not only of its victories, but also the defeats and the inability and unwillingness to participate in a universal application of human rights. And I think that
the country itself was founded on some really great concepts. So, and
I don't disagree. It certainly wasn't the only one.
It hasn't turned out to be the greatest. My parents came here thinking, that it was great, right? I mean, we left a communist country, which, for the most part, what they lived in, what we escaped from, here is better than there. We could be much better a country than what we are now.
Is that the very notion of American exceptionalism seems to preclude the idea that other nations, other people, other cultures might have a better idea, might have a better solution. And I think that that's ultimately one of the big problems that underlies the systemic issues in the US, is that unwillingness to just look outside your own borders and say, you know what, for this particular problem, those guys over there, they figured it out. They got the solution. We don't have to go through 200 years of doing absolutely everything else except that. We can look at the solution that some other place has and maybe adopt it. And that's that not invented here syndrome. That's a problem.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. I think we can be a little arrogant at times. So maybe
culture is subject to that.
Yeah, I mean the whole "Make America Great Again," that whole movement. I don't want to say I'm not a fan of. I think we could be great again, but we aren't.
See,
it's sad. The whole situation is sad, right?
Well,
Like,
the whole premise of that very term, "Make America Great Again,"
weren't
is,
we great to begin with? Isn't every
well,
country great for the most part? I mean,
maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends on how you define it, but it's also fundamentally desiring of the past. It's fundamentally desiring of what we have over the past few weeks had all of our faces rubbed in was always a broken system. It's wanting
yeah.
to go back to a system that oppressed marginalized populations. There is no great America to go back to. If you want a great America, build a better one. Don't
No, you're right. I mean,
what existed.
you're absolutely right there. We need to be better than what we are now. Our leaders need to be better. Uh,
Well, and I think
do
all of
what's
us,
right. I think we all have a part in that, right?
yes,
Uh,
and
we
then
each,
regardless of the country
each
we're in,
person has a part in how we play. How each of us has a part in how this portrays, how this plays out. Every single person, um, we can all pay it forward. There's little things each of us can do to make the world a little bit better place. For those that don't think that there's no problem, there's definitely a problem. I mean, I grew up being discriminated against. I still am discriminated against. On multiple levels, right? Uh, so I definitely feel for the Black community because if I am getting harassed and discriminated against, and Asians tend to be more accepted, uh, you know,
well, and
I
some of
mean,
the instances in your past that you've talked about have been pretty bad.
yeah. So if I'm getting treatment like that, it breaks my heart that others are getting it worse, and they shouldn't be, right? Based off the color of their skin, or if they're a woman or man, like regardless, they shouldn't be
Well,
treated like
I,
that.
I
And
think I think the critical component here is that we like to focus, and by this I mean humans in general, regardless of culture or country or anything like that. We like to focus on our personal rights, our freedoms, what we are owed, what we deserve, what we are entitled to. But we take very little time in thinking about our responsibilities, especially the responsibilities that go with privilege.
oh my
I
gosh, yeah.
I am a privileged white male. I am your stereotypical middle aged fat white male. See the gray in my beard here, but it is important not to just focus on effectively the politically correct version of what it is we are due, and instead to think about what do we owe as human beings to the people around us. I mean, I didn't get where I am entirely on my own. I believe I like to perhaps tell myself that I worked hard to get where I am, but that
Mhm.
is never enough. There are people out there who work harder than me and have nothing. And so I
Yeah.
have to acknowledge, I have to admit that where I came from, who my parents were, where I was born, the color of my skin, all of it. There were so many things that helped me along the way, whether that assistance was subtle or gross, whether it was an implicit systemic item that biased various individuals and organizations towards me, or whether it was, the helping hand of somebody who picked me up, saw something that they thought was potential, and decided to give me a chance. People in marginalized populations don't get that opportunity as much. And
No, we don't. Um, we rely on those elevators to come back down and lift us up.
mhm,
And I'm a huge advocate of sending that elevator back down. Whenever I have an opportunity, I do, right? Because I know that someone gave me an opportunity. In fact, you did. You've lifted me up several times, and I am so grateful for that. So when I'm given opportunities, I will pass I will pass them back down and try to help others, you know, rise themselves up. Because I look at it this way, like, I didn't, like you said, I didn't get here by myself. Others have helped me, so I need to help others so we can all be successful and supportive of each other. Because it takes a village. It really does. I
It
know it's
really does.
the thing, but it takes a freaking village.
No human being is an island. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how rugged
Preach.
or individualist that you are. Everybody needs help. You do not hunt all your own food. You do not grow all your own food. You do not refine your own petroleum. Somewhere along the way, you are reliant on other people to provide you goods or services that you need to survive. We are pack animals. And this obsession with believing that we can all somehow be all things, that we can be superior to everyone at everything, that's a lie. It's a fantasy we tell ourselves to pretend that we have more control over our lives than we really do. But at the end of the day, whether or not you're a dick is a much better predictor of whether or not you get what you need out of life than anything else.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the other things that we have to, and I know we're not supposed to talk about work or tech or anything, but I think one of the other
We
things
can, and I mean, we can touch on it because
there's
things intersect, right?
they do, and I think that look, we're the bad guys right now. We are turning security and privacy into negative externalities, no different than how the oil industry turned pumping massive amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere into a negative externality, or in the case of my native Alberta, strip mining a significant chunk of the northern half of the province in search of tar sands. We are running around as an industry not making security, not making privacy, not making any real considerations about how our technology is going to be used, tier one considerations in their design. The technologies we make can and do get abused. They can and do get used against marginalized populations, and
Oh my gosh, yes.
we say technology is neutral and we disclaim all responsibility and we walk away, and yet that is our sin. That is our sin as individuals, as an industry, and it will come back to bite us. Future generations are going to think of us the same way we thought of tobacco companies or oil companies. We are
Technology is not neutral. Technology inherits the bias and the bigotry from its creators, right? I
well,
mean,
and
it isn't.
apathy too.
Yeah, it all those algorithms, someone's got to input that data in. So that bias is coming from the people that's creating that. The everyone, I don't say everyone, but yeah, everyone. There is a bias built into you somehow. Even I'm guilty of it at times. You know, doing a project, right? You're going to reach out to people that are in your inner circle, people that you're comfortable with, people
Mm-hmm.
that are like you. And then you start, or think like you. And then you start looking at the people in your team that you've picked. And you realize that, I don't really have a diverse set here because everyone agrees with me,
They
right?
might look diverse, but they don't think in a diverse fashion.
Yeah. So it takes it takes a conscious effort to say, I need to extend my reach and think outside of my circle and go to others that don't think like me, that are, that have differences of opinion, because you're gonna get a more diverse
I agree. I think the other thing that
opinion.
needs to happen is
But it's a conscious effort.
Yes,
As adults, this is a conscious effort we have to do.
we also have to reach out to all stakeholders that might be impacted by the technologies and services that we create and include them in the design process early on. If you're going to create some cloud service that sucks in an absolutely extraordinary amount of data, you have to ask yourself, whose data are you pulling in? And what can potentially be done with this data? How could it be abused by your company 5 years from now? How could it be abused by a government that shows up with a secret warrant? How could it be abused by a supplier or some other vendor in an ecosystem that one day you give an API access to? These are the sorts of questions that we explicitly don't ask, but which end up absolutely harming marginalized populations. We need to be including all of these various stakeholders, even if, and I hate to use the term, but even if they are the product we are selling, we need to include those people in the discussion about the design of that product way before we ever start code. And that is the thing, that is the responsibility that we as an industry are rejecting.
Yeah. Because it's different. It's not within our comfort zone.
It challenges our fundamental assumption that technology is neutral, that just because we can do a thing, we should. And
we need to get over that.
We do. I mean, it's
it's plain and simple. You know, we need to get over ourselves. Like, you know, if it's too comfortable, then try something else. Make it feel uncomfortable.
Whenever you are too comfortable, you have to ask yourself, who's paying that I might be comfortable?
That's a good way to put it.
And it is an incredibly uncomfortable way to think. But, you know, these past few weeks, to watch all of this unfold, to watch so many people in so many different nations be confronted with their own apathy, with how much they consciously and studiously ignore what is going on around them, and to watch them react to that, to watch what they say and how they fight against being dragged out of their comfort zone, is unbelievably depressing.
Tell me about it. The past few weeks have just been, it's been an emotional roller coaster for everyone. You know, for those that are suffering, but for those that are in a privileged place, because there's been guilt, right? And this, I guess, realization that, wow, oh shit, I am privileged, because I know a lot of people, it was like this smack in the face to them that, like, yeah, I never thought about that way, right? Like, the privileges I have, we take for granted. Like you don't, like, I have privilege. I tell my children, I said, you guys have a shit ton of privilege, more than others. And yet we're discriminated against at certain times. So how do we turn, how do we turn that? How do we turn that and make this better, right? Because it's been like, even for me, like, I feel like, how can I make this a better world? How can I make a difference? How can I change it so that someone's life can be better? What can I do as one single person in this world?
And if I had the answer to that, I would probably sleep better at night. But
there's been a lot of reflection, though. I'm going to go on a limb, but I think a lot of us have been thinking, what can we do to help? Because yes, a lot have realized that I didn't know it was as bad, or yeah.
But we also,
you know, I am
think
privileged, and I wanna make this better.
we also tend to think about what can I do to defeat the problem, and I am just as guilty of this as anybody else. I look at, well, I just want this problem to go away.
We all do, but
I don't want other people to
we've been
have
doing
this.
this for hundreds of years,
Well,
Trevor.
exactly.
This is not a new problem.
I know, but,
This has
but
been going
we're
on for hundreds of years, and not just here in this country,
but we're engineers.
everywhere.
We solve this. We solve problems.
Yeah, but we haven't solved this
We
yet.
can't solve it.
What the f is wrong with us that we haven't figured this out after how many hundreds of years? Across the globe, we have still not figured this problem. And I'm going to say problem in quotes because it isn't I mean, it's a problem, but it should not matter what color of your skin is. It should not matter what you choose to identify yourself as, right? It should not matter. And yet here we are, it's 2020. We send people to space, right? We're looking at going to the moon. We've Mars, we've done all these really cool things with technology, yet we still haven't figured out how to fix racism.
Well, I agree, and I think, at least for me, I don't understand identity on that level, and that's probably just a personal quirk. But I mean, I never really understood race or the importance of it, in part because there aren't rules to it. Yeah, I mean, there's no fixed objective test that says this person is black or that person is white. Or
no, there
whatever.
isn't. We're all human.
Exactly. So
we all have a heart. Well, yeah, we all have a heart. We breathe air, right? We're all humans.
And so my view on this has been and is in very much calcifying around the concept that it doesn't matter what you choose your identity to be. What your identity is and what you identify with and who you identify as, that's yours. And I don't understand it. I might like to understand it, but I don't have to. It's your identity. And I think
and your identity should not matter whether you get a job or not, whether you get promoted or not, whether you get into a store or not, right? Your identity should not matter when it comes to those things.
The only thing that should matter is whether or not the identity you choose for yourself is based in harming others. If your identity doesn't harm anyone, why does it matter? I mean, why does it matter? I should say more explicitly to me. I mean, if you choose to identify as an attack helicopter, cool. Like, I mean, I will never get that. That's right up there with people who like feet. But cool, you do you. Some people juggle geese, right? Like,
yeah, judgment-free zone.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many other things to judge you based on. Your identity is not one of them. It's just whether or not you use Emacs. I mean, that's the thing that we're really going to have to judge you on. Tabs versus spaces. This is
yeah. You can be judged on that, right?
Racism is just as stupid as
pineapple on pizza. Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. Unpopular opinion. I actually like pineapple on pizza.
So
and I'm probably gonna hear like people gasping right now. I like pineapple on pizza. So shut up and leave me alone. It tastes good.
It does.
Plus onions.
Was a good
like
thing.
Grilled onions with some grilled peppers, maybe some sausage.
Now we're gonna have to debate. It depends on how big you make the onion slice.
No, like thinly sliced red onions, roasted perfectly, with some sausage in there, some peppers, maybe a little pepperoni. Yeah.
So now you're going to make me make pizza. There literally isn't a pizza.
I'm actually thinking of pizza right now.
We'd have to make it. There are no pizza joints here.
How small is your town, village?
I think we're
officially
below 450 people now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this whole
That is
valley
a village.
is 500 kilometers long, and there's like tops 2,000 people in this valley.
That is a village.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very small place. And let me tell you, with the world sort of going a little bit crazy with regards to the pandemic and so forth, I have to say I'm really glad about the decision to move to nowhere. Especially since if I get this virus, I die.
Well, yeah, that you're naturally isolated, right?
Yes, I'm enjoying the part where we've officially gotten rid of the last COVID case in the Northern Health region of BC. So,
Well, that's good.
yeah, now we're just waiting for all the tourists to bring it back.
Yeah. I think our state hit like over 80,000 cases, but and we're seeing a decline now, which is good. Which is good, right? I'm outside of Philadelphia, so we were a hot spot there for a while. We still are, but it's gone down. But some of these other southern states, their numbers are creeping up, and I just read an article today in Florida. They're saying that a lot of the spikes are the younger generation, right? The kids that think, "Hey, I'm young. I get it. I'm gonna survive, right? I'm gonna."
Well, it's not just that. I mean,
Like,
it's the
come on,
younger
kids. Let's be smart about this, okay?
it's the younger people in the margin and the marginalized populations who are getting affected the most, not necessarily because of the well publicized events in which a bunch of people do stupid things, but because they are also the people who serve as our frontline workers. They literally are the essential workers of the world. They're the most marginalized groups out there. They're the poorest people in our society, and they're the ones getting hit the hardest because they're the ones who are slaving away so that we can live in our comfort zone.
Yes, I know some young people that are frontline workers. One of them is my son. He is, he's 19. Um, but another young lady in Kansas, she is the daughter of a very good friend of mine. We were pregnant together when we were both pregnant with our firstborn. So I love her dearly, and she just turned 21, and she's a frontline worker as well. Actually, so is my other son. My oldest works for FedEx. He's frontline worker.
And every time you don't wear a mask, every time you choose not to, you are literally visually broadcasting that you do not care about all those people that will die, and that you do not care that you are putting at risk every single one of those young people, every single one of those marginalized individuals who are out there doing the jobs we don't want to do and that we don't pay well for as a society, but upon which we are utterly dependent. I mean, it's, to me,
you know what? We're just selfish.
Is a monstrous symbol.
There are some people that are just really selfish. Wearing a mask is not about you. It's about protecting others.
Exactly.
It is not about you.
It isn't just about protecting others. It's also a form of solidarity. It's saying literally, I care whether you live or die. It is that simple.
It's not. This isn't a political thing. This isn't a Democratic Republican. No,
this is a human thing.
And it pisses me off that there are people politicizing this. Really, this is a matter of health and safety. This is not a blue-red thing. Like, what the fuck?
Okay. I think it's even more basic than health and safety. It is acknowledging the fundamental humanity of those around you. I mean, it literally goes down to, I see you, you are a person. I acknowledge that you exist as a separate and independent
entity. I respect that you're human.
Sorry?
I respect that you are human, and I have this mask on because I respect you as a human.
Exactly.
I acknowledge that. And I went to the pet store on Tuesday, a holistic wellness place, because my dog hasn't been eating right. So I'm trying all sorts of things. And I go in there, and great shop, but nobody had a mask on. I had a mask on. I told my daughter, don't you dare take that mask off. You know, you just don't know. And I was very disappointed that others weren't wearing a mask, even though you're supposed to be in our state. But there are people that choose not to because you are you are violating my civil liberties, my rights, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm over that argument.
This goes back to our responsibilities versus our rights and freedoms, and wearing a mask versus not wearing a mask is a visual way of identifying who believes more in their own rights and freedoms, their own comfort, versus who cares literally the smallest, most minimal amount about those around them. It is a great visual.
You are 100% correct.
Exactly that mindset.
It is not about you. It is about others.
Well, but for those who don't wear a mask, everything is about them.
Yeah.
They are the focus of their own consideration.
Oh, I can't breathe. It's difficult. Well, it's difficult to breathe for me too. And you know what?
To breathe with a boot on your neck too.
Yeah, I put a mask on. I'd rather make sure that others are protected. You know, this isn't about me. The brief moment I got to put a mask on, big whoop.
You know, way back when,
I will live with myself better knowing that I did not get anybody sick.
We asked previous generations, what would you be willing to fight and die for? What ideals? We are literally asking today's people, what would you be willing to be marginally uncomfortable for? We asked people to die in trenches for the guy next to them. And we literally as a population cannot muster the care about others to wear a mask for 3 minutes in a shop while we buy dog food. Like,
no, I'm right there. And yeah, it's really, it's sad how
two things happening at once: the pandemic and all of the associated concepts that have gone with it, as well as the social upheaval around a desire to end systemic discrimination against marginalized people.
When are the aliens coming? I'm waiting for our alien overlords to come. July 4th is right around the corner. We are, what, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away? Will Smith, come on. Get ready.
I think one of the reasons that these protests have really picked up so much, and I should say more accurately that they've picked up so many allies, is that the pandemic has provided us very comfortable, privileged people with an all-day, everyday panopticon view of just how many people in our society don't care, and how they're everywhere, and how they're even people that we thought we respected. And when we are faced with that every single day, it becomes easier to understand, or at least it does to me, become easier to understand racism, discrimination, all the forms of bigotry that are out there, and just how prevalent it is, just how many people care that little. And we're forced to watch it and be confronted with it every day. And that was not a thing literally like 8 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago, we could live in blissful ignorance. And in the course of like 2 months, we have watched all of our fantasies about our own morality disintegrate and be forced to recalculate and reconsider everybody else around us. 2020 is showing the world who we are as individuals, as organizations. You can't hide Everything that you truly are is laid bare. And I'm deeply disappointed in a lot of people and definitely a lot of organizations.
That's why I'm waiting for our alien overlords.
Yeah, if I was an alien, I would definitely not be stopping here now.
I'm sure they took a peek, looked out the window, and were like, yeah, let's get out of Dodge. Yeah, that's yeah, they're gonna kill themselves.
Galactic.
We don't need to do it, right? Yeah, no, the alien overlords. I welcome them. I mean, I don't know if they'd be any better, but what else could happen, right?
Yeah,
Asteroid,
I think a lot about how this is going to change. I guess the future of a lot of what underpins our industry, things like conferences, user groups. I mean, how we engage with customers, how we engage with our own employees. I mean, I don't think there's a going back to the way things were. But at the same time, I think so many people are wanting it. They want to go back to that conference. They want to go back to the life that they knew before. That there isn't as much thought on, well, how do we do this? How do we do things like this, adjacent to this, but be more inclusive? I mean, if we go back to conference season and it is one female and one person of color up on the speakers list and like an entire room full of white dudes, what did we go through all this for?
yeah. I'm sure when we go back to that, we'll see some of that. Hopefully, it'll change more. But my fear is that there'll be little change, right? Because it's a cultural change, and that takes time.
I guess that's really my fear too.
Because
It's
right now, honestly, I think right now it could just be a fad, right?
mm-hmm.
We'll really know in about 6 months. That's my honest opinion. In about 6 months, we'll really know if people really mean to change, if they continue their good habits that they started now. Because we can talk about it all we want, and they can talk about it all they want, right? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but until there's action, until there's something that's actionable that actually has happened, then yeah. I had a conversation with a fellow gentleman, white male, in the community, and I'll read it off to you. I won't read it verbatimly, but let's see here. Where is it? What did he say here? Gosh, my eyes are old now. Okay. So basically, for paraphrasing, for a lot of this, for the change to happen, the white males have to lead the change. And I agree with that statement. Because for the Black community, they're leading it too, right? They have been for years, generations. Women, we've been leading change. Where's that gotten us? We're still fighting for equality in the workplace, right? We're still fighting to get paid the same as our male counterparts. We're still fighting for those jobs. We're still fighting to be taken seriously. So is the Black community. Same thing. We're all still fighting for all this equality, and yeah, the white males, they do have to lead the change.
I have a minor disagreement with that.
I mean, we all have to take part in it, but a lot of the comments that I'm hearing from, that I don't know, seem to be coming from the white males.
I don't disagree with that part, but I guess
Like for
someone,
like for
someone
instance, you, right? You're educating others. You're opening people's minds up. You are a white dude in tech. I mean, you are the
I'm also a member of a marginalized population.
yes you
being
are.
disabled, and
Yes,
so
you are.
I'm at least I have been exposed to a little bit of what others experience in terms of discrimination. Certainly nowhere near as much, but I think it gives me a perspective that makes this all a little bit more personal to me. But I think the part where I disagree is not that white men need to stop being whiny little. It is the concept that white men have to lead. We don't. And I think that's actually our problem. We think we need to lead, that we need to be in charge, that we need to be in control.
Not in charge. Not I would say not in charge, but help educate, right? Or
yes, but help
or be part of that change.
A good leader is not somebody who increases their own capabilities such that they are capable of handling and then do handle every situation. A good leader is someone who creates other leaders. And that needs to be our focus. It is not that we then go out and force the change. It is that we elevate those others, give them the knowledge and the tools and the opportunities that they can then define what that change will be. And we then, as the white males, we need to follow.
Mm-hmm.
We should not be the ones dictating what the future is to be. We tried that, it sucked. Let's let somebody else do it for a change. I would not, for example, despite all of my emotional tweeting on the topics, advance myself as somebody who I would want to be in charge. I have lived too privileged a life, I think, to truly understand what is needed in terms of change. Despite all the efforts that I have made to educate myself, despite all the time that I have put into trying to educate others, I have only come far enough to realize that it is not a problem that gets solved if people like me are the ones who are in charge. Because we can never truly understand the depth of the change that's required.
And the room goes silent.
Yeah. I bloviate.
Thoughts to ponder, right?
The definition of insanity is to keep trying to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
And that's what we've been doing for hundreds of years.
Well, I would argue for several thousand, but yeah.
Yeah. Keep doing the same thing over and over. We haven't changed it. Something's got to give, right? Something's got to give.
Historically, when something gives, there's a bloody revolution. The true test of our societies, of whether or not we have evolved as cultures, is whether we can navigate these significant cultural changes and come face to face with our own inability to take responsibility for our actions without requiring the bloody revolution that has always been there in the past. Yeah. Do we need to see the French Revolution once more, or have we finally moved past that? That's the question that's hanging over everybody's heads. That's the thing we're all afraid to ask and even more afraid to answer. I hope that isn't the path that's necessary. But I'm firmly in the camp of the status quo is not okay.
No.
I think more than anything, actually, it was you that.
What did I do?
Well, over the years, you made me repeatedly come face to face with my own privilege, with just how wacky and bizarre and horrible our industry can be to people, and the things that you've gone through that I can only barely even begin to comprehend, and only comprehend on a purely intellectual level. And I mean, I've only really heard bits and pieces of many of the things that you've gone through, some of it secondhand, but it has been. And you're one of my friends. You're one of my very close friends. You're somebody that is real and tangible to me in a way that reading about it in a newspaper just doesn't have that effect, right? And it's not that you encountered an instance of discrimination. Your entire life has been an instance of discrimination. Your professional career has been discrimination. And you are 10 times the technologist, 10 times the marketer, 10 times the person that I am in so many other ways. And yet you have had to fight and kick and claw and bite and scratch for every small consideration you've ever had. And the contrast between our careers as they have evolved, even over the past 10-ish, 12-ish years that we've known each other, it doesn't sit well with me. And I wish I knew what to do about it. I wish I knew how to change things. But, I mean, your own struggles have personalized this in a way that I don't think were possible before. And they enabled me to take a personal journey of enlightenment from, quite frankly, really douchey tech bro to ever so slightly less douchey tech bro, or perhaps merely douchey in a different way.
Less douchey.
But speaking out made a difference.
It does. But it also,
I'm sure it was costly.
Yes, it brands you in a way.
Yes.
It's very costly. But in the long run, speaking out, it lets people know what's going on, right? And you need to speak out.
I wish people were capable of the level of empathy required to make great changes in our own perception of the world without it having to be somebody close to us that is hurt along the way.
When it's happening to you at the moment, you don't realize it. You don't realize what it is, right? Whether it's discrimination or, or whatnot, harassment. It sometimes while it's happening, you're still trying to process everything. So having someone there to confide in and say, to vent to, and then they can say, hey, shit, that's not right, what's happening to you, then you feel almost validated, because you do question it, right? You question yourself, you question the actions. Did I do something wrong? It's my fault. Or like you internalize it. But when someone outside of that sees what's going on, and they acknowledge that that's not right, that there's some validation there, and it's helpful. Like, okay, now I feel better. I can speak out because somebody else is seeing it and it's just not me. I'm not crazy. It's like it sucks that we have to validate each other's experiences. I've had plenty of people ask me, "Hey, I need your opinion on this. Should I feel wrong for feeling this way because XYZ, here's the story." And I'm like, "No. You have every reason to feel that way. That is not right."
There is one, as far as I can tell, only the one good thing that has come out of the Trump presidency, and that is a nearly universal understanding of the concept of gaslighting and how it applies to more than just politicians, but exactly what you just described is being gaslit. You have been through most of your career, in fact, I would guess many people have, gaslit to believe that the bad things being done to them are their fault or
Oh
that
my
they're
gosh, yeah.
normal. And it is not. It is abnormal. It is wrong. It is fundamentally inhuman. It is denying the humanity of the victim. But we as a culture, we as individuals, and certainly we as organizations do gaslight everybody around us
We
into
do.
the unconscionable.
Oh, I was gaslit when I was being harassed. I was made to feel like it was my fault. I deserved to be treated that way. It was
Yep.
my fault because I was a horrible bitch and I deserved it. I'm a whore, you name it, I was
Three
called it.
things I would never associate with you, but that's okay.
Yeah, I was just a horrible person. I deserved everything that I got. And
I have,
when
in
you're
all
repeatedly
of the
being
time that I
told
have known
this,
you, never known you to be anywhere near horrible. Just for the record.
and this is a coworker. When someone at work tells you this, you're like repeatedly for days, for a year, over and over how horrible you are.
Emotional abuse is still abuse.
Yeah, and you
mean,
get to the point where you're like, you work yourself to death to be better. But they're just sick in their own ways, and yeah. So,
Yep.
well, we are out of time, Trevor. This was
Depressing.
but there was a lot of venting. There was a lot of venting. We talked. It today's a day where even Twitter is very quiet today. Everyone's very quiet.
Yes, there was a great joke that I will paraphrase, and that is, what is Twitter's worst feature? And the only response I have for this is uptime.
Yeah, like the Twitter's very quiet today. Very, very quiet. I think social media in general is very quiet today, and rightfully so. There's a lot of reflection going on today. Lots of great conversations are being held privately with people, small groups, friends, lots of learning. What is the Juneteenth conference is going on right now. But yeah, lots of learning today. Lots of learning and reflection.
Lots of getting ready for a weekend of just nonstop protests too.
Yeah, probably. Which means protests, people gathering together. Yeah, I'd cringe.
I do, and as much as I'm the guy who's out there beating the drum about masks and all the rest of it, at the end of the day, some things you die for. Freedom's one.
I miss people. I miss seeing my friends. I miss
I miss my friends.
Yeah, I do. I miss seeing people in person. I miss hugs. I miss my family. Like I haven't seen my brothers.
There's a lot of people that I
I haven't
miss.
seen my brothers in months.
Yeah, I mean, there's people I miss. The people who I would call my voluntary family, my close friends. I miss them.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Over the past couple of months, I have learned that it's not people that I miss. Specific individuals, people in general, no.
you miss your peeps.
I miss my peeps. I don't miss people.
Same here. I just ate an M&M. That's so good.
All right.
Well, we are out of time. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, everyone that watched us. Have a great weekend. Till next week. Bye.
Bye.